Bureaucracy is a system of management characterized by specific features and principles. It's a structured and formal approach to governance, administration, and management that aims to achieve efficiency, consistency, and control within an organization or government. Bureaucracy has a long history stretching back thousands of years. Consider the ancient civilizations such as Rome, Egypt, or China. In ancient Rome, the concept of bureaucracy, while not fully developed to modern standards, was still evident in the intricate organization of their government and military structures. Roman governance was characterized by a complex system of public offices and ranks, which included the Senate, consuls, and other officials. However, this system was not entirely based on a standardized set of impersonal rules or procedures, as we would expect in a modern bureaucracy. Decisions and policies were often influenced by the personal authority and relationships of the senators rather than by adherence to strict procedural guidelines. What's more, figures like Julius Caesar exemplify the reliance on individual authority and charisma in Roman bureaucracy. Caesar's rise to power and subsequent reforms demonstrate how personal influence and leadership were pivotal in the administrative processes of Rome. His ability to command loyalty and his charismatic leadership often overrode the existing bureaucratic norms, and he made significant decisions based on his personal judgment and political acumen rather than solely on established procedures. Moreover, while the Roman army was known for its discipline and structure, the command and control often rested on the personal authority of generals and commanders rather than on a systematic bureaucratic chain of command. Military decisions could be heavily influenced by those individuals' experience, reputation, and personal style of leadership. The Roman system allowed for more personal discretion and influence, making it less rationalized and standardized compared to contemporary bureaucratic systems. In recent decades, changes in technology, competition, and politics have transformed how organizations operate. Despite a decline in discussions about bureaucracy, it remains remarkably prevalent in practice. Many organizations still rely on key bureaucratic features, such as hierarchical structure, specialized roles, and formalized processes. The success of those organizations often hinges on how effectively they implement those elements, both in public and the private sectors, especially in large organizations. Instrumental rationality remains the primary just for their hierarchical authority. Surprisingly, bureaucracy continues to thrive even in unexpected settings, such as grassroots initiatives, unconventional collectives, extremist groups, technology startups, and online communities. Today's bureaucracies are characterized by their impersonal nature, where decisions are made based on predefined rules and procedures, and personal influence is minimized to ensure fairness and consistency. Bureaucracy has become a fundamental organizing principle due to its 6 typical features in today's bureaucratic organizations. First, efficiency and predictability. Bureaucracy organizes human activity in a way that allows for efficient completion of a task. Through a hierarchical structure and the division of labor, it ensures that responsibilities are clearly defined, that tasks are accomplished systematically. This structure promotes predictability and uniformity, allowing for the smooth functioning of large organizations. In organizations, we are required to fill out a lot of forms and paperwork, which are integral components of bureaucracy. Although filling out the forms can be time-consuming, they enable more efficient processing of large volumes of information. Structured forms allow for quicker data entry, retrieval, and analysis, which is important in large organizations where numerous transactions or interactions occur. Second, rule-based decision-making. Bureaucracies operate on a set of established rules, regulations, and standard operating procedures to guide decision-making and activities. This rule-based approach ensures decisions are made consistently and impartially, reducing the potential for arbitrary or biased decision-making. It also provides a clear framework for resolving disputes and handling different situations. Third, professionalism and expertise. Bureaucracies typically involve specialized roles with individuals trained and skilled in specific areas. This division of labor increases the overall competence and professionalism in the organization because tasks are handled by individuals with appropriate expertise. Recruitment, retention, and promotion in the bureaucratic organizations are often based on merit and qualifications rather than favoritism or nepotism. Fourth, accountability and transparency. In a bureaucratic system, there is a clear chain of command. Each level of the hierarchy is accountable to the one above and ultimately to the top leadership. This structure allows for accountability and ideally transparency in operation and decision-making processes. Fifth, stability and continuity. Bureaucratic organizations, by their nature, are geared towards stability and continuity due to a clear hierarchy with distinct levels of authority. Each level reports to the one above it, creating a chain of command. The established procedures and documented rules mean that the organization is less dependent on any single individual. This ensures that the organization can continue functioning effectively even as the personnel change. 6. Impersonal nature. Bureaucracy emphasizes impersonality in interaction and decision-making. It focuses on adherence to rules and regulations rather than personal connections. This helps in treating all cases in a uniform manner, irrespective of individual differences, and ensures fairness in the application of rules and policies. Bureaucratic organizations are commonly found in government agencies, large corporations, and institutions where consistency, accountability, and efficiency are critical. While bureaucracy offers benefits such as order and reliability, it can also be criticized for its potential rigidity, inefficiency, and slow response to change. As a result, the design and effectiveness of bureaucratic organizations can vary, and many organizations seek to balance bureaucracy with flexibility and innovation to adapt to changing circumstances, such as changes in technology, competition, societal, and political environments. Let's look at some of the recent adaptations of bureaucratic organizations due to COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the adoption of digital tools, which improved efficiency in some processes through remote work and digital communication. The sudden shift disrupted traditional workflows and predictability, requiring organizations to quickly adapt to new methods of operation. Before the pandemic, educational institutions like schools and universities primarily operated through in-person teaching and learning. The workflow was predictable. Students attended classes at specific times and locations. Teachers delivered lectures in classrooms, and evaluations were conducted in controlled environments. When the pandemic hit, those institutions had to close their physical campuses almost overnight. This abrupt closure upended the traditional teaching and learning model. Institutions had to quickly shift to online platforms for teaching. This required not only technological adaptations, but also a pedagogical shift. Teachers who were used to in-person lectures had to learn how to engage students through a screen, often without prior training in online teaching methods. Traditional methods of assessment were no longer feasible. Institutions had to develop new ways to conduct exams remotely, ensuring academic integrity. This led to the adoption of online proctoring tools, open book exams, or assignments replacing traditional exams. Administrative staff who were accustomed to face-to-face interactions for processes like admissions, counseling, and student support had to transition to remote operations. This required not only new software and tools, but also a change in approach to student engagement and support. Budgets and resources had to be quickly redirected. Funds earmarked for on-campus activities were shifted to improve digital infrastructure, acquire software licenses, and train staff and faculty in digital tools. Second, rule-based decision-making. The COVID-19 pandemic led to the rapid development and implementation of new rules and protocols, especially regarding health and safety, remote work, and digital engagement. The fast pace of change often meant that rules were in flux, which could lead to confusion and inconsistency in decision-making. For example, many companies had to switch to remote work with little preparation. This required the development of new policies regarding work hours, communication expectations, and digital security. The fast pace of change in remote work policies, often in response to fluctuating local COVID-19 cases, sometimes led to inconsistencies in how those policies were applied across different departments or teams. In schools and universities, the rapid transition to online learning required the implementation of rules around online classroom conduct, attendance, and assessment methods. Due to the novelty of this mode of learning, educators and administrators often had to modify those rules as they discover what worked and what did not, leading to a period of trial and error that could confuse students and parents. Third, professionalism and expertise. The pandemic pushed professionals to adapt and expand their skills, particularly in digital literacy and remote work technologies. Actually, this was when I began to record my lectures and put them online because I could not deliver in-person lectures in classroom during the pandemic. I had to turn my lecture notes and PowerPoint slides into videos and learn how to edit videos. In hindsight, the skills I learned have proven to be valuable for expanding my professional expertise. The pandemic and remote working also makes it challenging to maintain professional standards and development opportunities. For example, professionals in the legal industry, such as lawyers and judges, traditionally rely heavily on in-person interactions, whether in courtrooms or client meetings. Transitioning to virtual courtrooms was challenging because it required not only technological adaptations, but also changes in courtroom etiquette and procedures. In education, teachers had to rapidly learn how to engage students and maintain educational standards through a computer screen, which is vastly different from managing a physical classroom. I myself had to learn what to do if students refuse to turn on camera during online classes. Moreover, opportunities for collaboration and professional development, which used to be through in-person workshops, were limited, impacting teachers' professional growth. Fourth, accountability and transparency. Remote work environments and rapidly changing situations during the COVID-19 pandemic sometimes made it difficult to track responsibilities and maintain oversight. Organizations struggle with overseeing employee productivity and project progress in remote setting. Without physical presence, administrators find it challenging to evaluate workloads accurately and ensure that team members are meeting their responsibilities effectively. In hospitals, with many administrative staff working remotely, coordinating patient care, resource allocation, and staff scheduling becomes more complex, leading to potential delays and communication gaps. In education, educators struggle with tracking student engagement and learning progress in online format. Ensuring academic integrity during remote examinations become a significant challenge, raising concerns about fair evaluation. Fifth, stability and continuity. The pandemic disrupted the stability of most organizations, especially those heavily reliant on physical presence. Organizations had to navigate unprecedented challenges, with some facing severe financial strain and operational difficulties. Many restaurants, especially small and independently owned ones, did not survive the pandemic. The sudden loss of customers due to lockdowns and social distancing measures put immense financial pressure on those businesses. Lacking the financial reserves or diversification of larger chains, numerous local restaurants were forced to close permanently, unable to sustain operations without regular patronage. Unlike private businesses, government organizations, which are funded by taxpayers, generally faced less survival pressure. While they did experience disruptions in service delivery and had to adapt to remote working conditions, they were not under the same financial strain as private entities. Their operations continued, albeit in modified forms, due to the steady support from public funds. Public schools and universities being largely taxpayer-funded, they were not subjected to the same level of existential threat as many private businesses. The nature of government organizations' funding and operations also explains that why government organizations are more rigid and less adaptable to change. Government organizations are typically funded through taxpayers' money, which provides a more stable and predictable source of revenue compared to the market-driven revenues of private businesses. This financial stability, while beneficial in terms of continuity and public service provision, can sometimes reduce the urgency to innovate or adapt quickly in response to changing environment. Unlike private businesses that directly feel the market pressure and competition, government agencies often operate within a framework of established bureaucratic procedures and regulations. While those processes are designed to ensure accountability and fairness, they can also slow down the ability to implement rapid changes. For example, changing an operational procedure in a government agency may require multiple approvals and adherence to specific procurement rules, which can be time-consuming. Government agencies are typically more risk-averse compared to private businesses, since they are accountable to the public and operate under public scrutiny. There is often a greater emphasis on minimizing mistakes. This can lead to a culture that favors maintaining the status quo over innovation, especially in scenarios that require rapid adaptation. 6. Impersonal nature. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the increased reliance on emails, messaging apps, and online meeting platforms often reinforced the impersonal nature of bureaucratic interactions. For example, a team which used to have informal discussions and impromptu meetings in the office had to communicate primarily through scheduled video conferences and official emails, making interactions more structured and less personal. It's also difficult to pick up on nonverbal cues through a computer screen. Nonverbal cues include a range of visual and auditory signals that are often unconsciously used to convey emotions, intentions, and responses. On a computer screen, especially with different camera qualities, subtle facial expressions can be difficult to discern, leading to misinterpretation or misunderstanding of the speaker's true feelings. Moreover, body language, including posture, gesture, and overall body movements, is a rich source of information in communication. Leaning backward can signal resistance or disengagement. It could indicate that a person is distancing themselves from the conversation or is not in agreement with what is being discussed. Folding arms is often perceived as a defensive posture. It can suggest that a person is feeling closed off or resistant to what is being presented or discussed. In a virtual meeting, the camera typically captures only a limited view, often just the face and upper torso, restricting the visibility of full body language. This limitation can make it difficult to gauge someone's level of engagement, confidence, or discomfort. The use of physical space in communication also plays an important role in face-to-face communications, influencing perceptions of intimacy, formality, and power dynamics. For example, in virtual meetings, the absence of a shared physical space changes those dynamics. In a traditional office meeting, the seating arrangement can reflect organizational hierarchy or the nature of the discussion. For example, a CEO sitting at the head of the conference table conveys authority, but a circular setup can encourage equality and open participation. Who chooses to sit next to whom can facilitate informal alliances or social affiliation. An executive choosing to sit next to a particular department head may signal endorsement or collaboration. The way people physically occupy the space, like standing up to present ideas or moving around the room, can also energize the session. Spreading out documents or leaning in during discussion can convey confidence or assertiveness. But in an online meeting, everyone has a similar sized box on the screen. The physical cues that indicate hierarchy and alliances are lost. This can democratize interactions to some extent, but also makes it more difficult to establish authority and discern the social and emotional dynamics of your team. Let's move on to the impact of new technologies, particularly artificial intelligence, on bureaucracy. I'll share 2 articles on the future labor market. The first article was published by researchers at OpenAI Open Research and University of Pennsylvania on March 23, 2023. According to this article, approximately 80% of U.S. workforce could see at least 10% of their work tasks affected by the introduction of GPTs. If your job includes writing and editing text and creating content, that part of your work will be automated. On the positive side, artificial intelligence will free up time so that you can perform other tasks. On the pessimistic side, your position may be eliminated. Moreover, around 19% of workers may see at least 50% of their tasks impacted by GPT. This means that about 1/5 of workers may need to adapt to new ways of working, learn new skills, or even consider changing careers as a result of those changes. The figure you see shows exposure to large language models by industry based on human ratings. The GPT force rating of the industry impacted by large language models are largely consistent with the ones rated by humans. I highlighted the industries that are related to my field of management, administration, and leadership. The industries include management of companies and enterprises, federal, state, and local government, excluding state and local schools and hospitals, and the U.S. Postal Services. Will the number of employees working in federal, state, and local government shrink because part of their job can be automated and performed by artificial intelligence? What do you think? The rise of AI has the potential to fundamentally change how government decisions are made. If algorithms start making decisions instead of elected officials, then a small group of AI engineers could end up with enormous power to shape people's lives and livelihoods. The second article is titled Capturing Value from Artificial Intelligence, published in Academy of Management Discoveries on December 18, 2023. In this article, education-related occupations are among the most exposed occupations. This suggests that professionals in education are potentially more affected by advancements in large language models compared to other fields. This trend aligns with a series of recent publications discussing the impact of tools like ChatGPT on educational practices, such as how educators adapt assignment design and plagiarism detection in response to the technologies, as well as exploring the potential of language models to assist in creating educational content. Now it's time for you to explore how the adoption of artificial intelligence could influence educational institutions as bureaucratic organizations. Focus your exploration on the 6 features of bureaucratic organizations I introduced in this video: efficiency and predictability, rule-based decision-making, professionalism and expertise, accountability and transparency, stability and continuity, and impersonal nature. In this video, I introduce bureaucratic organizations. I'd like to pose a question for you. What other new or alternative organizational forms have the potential to replace bureaucracy? Please feel free to share your insights in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.